This is another whispered true crime video for you to fall asleep to. I'm especially excited about this one because of what I'm doing in the background. I found some shiny ink-cap mushrooms on our hike, and they're called ink-cap because they start digesting themselves pretty quickly after they mature or when they are picked. After they have completed this cannibalistic process, what's left is this ink-like substance. This is what it looked like when we spotted them. And this is how they look at the time I'm recording this audio. Less than 20 hours after they've been picked. And now you can see how all there's left of them at the time of filming the video is this dark grayish goo that, I'm gonna be honest with you, smells like a rotting animal, which is pretty close to what it actually is. I have a couple of porcupine quills, a pigeon, and a crow feather. I'll try each and see which works better. But since there's not much dead ink-cap mushrooms, I'll move on to normal people pencils after. Before I get into the true crime stories and news articles that I've gathered for us, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. If all of the people who regularly watched my videos subscribed, that would get me to 1,000 subscribers, and that would literally change my life. Thank you. The first article I'm going to read is from CBS News, and it is titled "The Dexter Killer Inside the Mind of a Murderer." It was published on August 14, 2024. An important piece of evidence was the hockey mask the killer wore when he attacked his two victims in October of 2008. Giles Tetrold, that's definitely not how you pronounce it. GILLESTETREAULT was one of the victims managed to escape the assault, but Johnny Altinger was murdered by the masked man. Giles Tetrold, the first targeted victim. On October 3rd, 2008, Canadian man Giles Tetrold followed directions to a location in Edmonton where he was supposed to meet a woman named Sheena, who he had met online. This is a copy of the directions that Giles was sent by Sheena. His supposed date had refused to give him the actual address of the house where they were supposed to meet, but instead sent him detailed directions to the location, letting him know that the garage door will be open shocked him with this stun baton. The masked man took out a gun and ordered Giles to the ground and placed duct tape on his eyes. While Giles was on the ground, he decided, if I'm going to die, I'd rather go my way than this way. He got up, ripped the tape from his eyes, and grabbed the attacker's gun. That's when he discovered it was made of plastic. After a violent struggle, Giles managed to escape from the garage and quickly drove away. He failed to report the scare to the police out of embarrassment. With each day that passed, Giles convinced himself the attack wasn't as serious as he first thought. But only a week later, the masked man would find his next target, Johnny Altinger, who wouldn't be as lucky as the first victim. On October 10, 2008, Edmonton man Johnny Altinger vanished after answering a similar dating ad on the plentyoffish.com. Concern turned into alarm for Altinger's friends and family when 3 days after he vanished, they received this unusual email from Altinger's account. They knew this was highly out of character, so they reported him missing to the police. And this unusual email says, "Hey there, I've met an extraordinary woman named Jen who has offered to take me on a nice long tropical vacation. We'll be staying in her winter home in Costa Rica. Phone number to follow soon. I won't be back in town until December 10th, but I will be checking my email periodically. See you around the holidays, Johnny." Altinger's friends were also able to hand over the directions Johnny had forwarded them before his date. Those directions led police directly to that garage, which turned out to be rented to an aspiring filmmaker named Mark Twitchell. Twitchell, 29, had rented the garage space to film his movie called House of Cards. The short film had featured a killer luring men to a garage and murdering them. An initial search of the garage uncovered what appeared to be blood spatter, which Twitchell told police came from the House of Cards execution scene he was filming. When investigators asked an actor from the film how much fake blood spatter there was from his scene, he responded, "None." Luminal tests later revealed excessive amounts of human blood that wasn't visible to the naked eye. During their investigation, investigators learned that Twitchell was a devoted fan of the Showtime series Dexter. Dexter Morgan on Facebook. What do you mean he posed as Dexter Morgan? Police believed Twitchell's garage resembled a scene right out of the Dexter show. The garage had plastic sheets covering all the windows, a table with blood splatter, and cleaning supplies laid out. Aldinger's blood was found in the trunk of Twitchell's family car, a discovery which led to the filmmaker's arrest on Halloween Day in 2008. Police believe that Aldinger was hit over the head with this pipe shortly upon entering the darkened garage. He was then stabbed to death. Investigators found a knife in Twitchell's car with blood on both the sheath and knife. The search of the car also led police to discover a deleted file on Twitchell's laptop called SK Confessions. Despite Twitchell telling the police that the document was a screenplay, investigators would come to find out it was a detailed account of Twitchell's crimes. What an idiot, man. Pictured is the beginning of SK Confessions, which would become a key piece of evidence in the case against Twitchell. The first lines read, "This story is based on true events. The names and events were altered slightly to protect the guilty. This is the story of my progression into becoming a serial killer." Like anyone just starting out in a new skill, I had a bit of trial and error in the beginning of my misadventures. Allow me to start from the beginning and I think you'll see what I mean. I don't remember the exact place and time it was that I decided to become a serial killer, but I remember the sensation that hit me when I committed to the decision. It was a rush of pure euphoria. I felt lighter, less stressed, if you will, at the freedom of the prospect. There was something about urgently exploring my dark side that greatly appealed to me. And I'm such a methodical planner and thinker that very challenge itself was enticing. This man, I swear to God, so full of himself. This realization was just the last in a series of new discoveries I made about myself. I just knew I was different somehow from the rest of humanity. I feel no such emotions as empathy or sympathy toward others. These are the exact words that Dexter used. The article continues, from the hockey mask to the lead pipe to the Dexter prepped garage. The police noticed that line by line the details in SK Confessions were aligning directly with the evidence they found at the crime scene. One passage spoke of the killer trying to burn remains in a barrel. Police found this burnt barrel inside Twitchell's garage. I bet this was the easiest case for the investigators, unlike Dexter, because it was a TV show. puzzle that had the police stumped was the fact that SK confessions spoke of a victim who got away. Find that person, the police thought, and you've proved that SK confessions is real and not the fictional screenplay. Pictured here is a detective holding up a photo of the hockey mask that authorities believed anyone who had escaped from Twitchell would remember. Seeing the hockey mask at the police press conference is what prompted Tetro to finally come forward. In June 2010, as Twitchell prepared to take the stand at his trial and argue that he had accidentally killed Altinger in self-defense, he decided to finally disclose the location of Altinger's body. Seen here are Twitchell's handwritten directions on a Google map. The directions led police to a manhole where Twitchell had dumped Altinger's remains. While preparing to cover the trial for the Edmonton Journal, Canadian investigative journalist and McEwan University professor Steve Lilleb, these Canadian last names, man, I cannot, Lillebuen, began corresponding with Twitchell after receiving a surprise call from the soon-to-be convicted serial killer himself. During their correspondence, this journalist pressed Twitchell to explain himself, but he wasn't able to get a satisfactory answer from Twitchell. He would say, "It would appear that I'm unique in the world. There is no key, no root cause." Another time he'd say, "It is what it is and I am what I am." This journalist writes about these letters in his book called The Devil's Cinema, The Untold Story Behind Mark Twitchell's Kill Room. And that is the end of this article about. Next, I'm going to be reading a story that I found on Reddit, and it is posted under the subreddit UFOs. Now let me know if you're interested in hearing more mysteries and paranormal stories from Reddit, because I really enjoy reading them, and I will be reading a couple for you tonight to see if y'all like it. Alright, the username Bone the Boon, BONEDHEPOON, posted on r/UFOs. It is titled, "We saw a UFO on Friday night for about 2 to 3 minutes. Photos, videos, and wife cried after." It was last Friday. On Friday night, my wife and I were sitting on the deck out back looking at the stars. We do this every night. By the way, I haven't read these stories before. I just looked at the titles and they sounded interesting to me, and I wanted to read them later, so we are going to read it together. Anyway, I'll start over now. On Friday night, my wife and I were sitting on the deck out back looking at the stars. We do this every night. Just after 10 p.m., my wife said, "Is that a shooting star?" Which I found odd because if it was, I wouldn't have time to look at it. The tree near me was blocking the direction she was staring at, so I got up and looked, and my jaw dropped. I said, holy, and we both jumped off the deck and got into the yard for a better view. The craft seemed huge, miles away, had tons of blinking and spinning lights, and a rotating orange/red light on the bottom. You can only see the orange-red light in the video. We observed it for 2 to 3 minutes as it continued flying away, and then it was just gone. No noise, it was just gone. For the photos and videos, these were taken on my wife's Galaxy Fold 4. I think it's the 4. Anyway, okay. She's had it 2 years. I pulled out my S21 Ultra immediately, and it died right in front of my eyes. I knew the battery was low, but I don't ever need my phone while we are on the deck, so pre-UFO, I didn't care to go through it on the charger. If only I'd known. Okay, I think he's explaining himself too much. And these are the photos that they have posted. For some reason I cannot open the video. It doesn't show up as a video. What do you think? This light is in the sky. Do you know of any aircrafts that could explain the encounter that they had? Now let's get into paranormal r/paranormal encounters. It was posted by a username called No More Briefs 6 days ago. It's titled, "Husband Spoke to an Angel Tonight." My husband was approached by someone who he says looked incredibly like his dad. My husband looks just like his dad. While sitting in his car watching something on his iPad. Man had a dog that also resembled something related to my husband. His childhood dog. He has cried about multiple times with me, and this man is nearing 40. What are they talking about? Wait a second. Oh, this man that his husband encountered had a dog that also resembled the dog that his husband had in his childhood. An hour-long or so conversation ensues, mostly with the man leading the conversation. The man shared a lot about himself, including that he was an angel and he'd be turning 300 years old. My husband asked him where he was from, and the man would simply say he was from here. The man basically shared a whole lot about himself, and it all basically had an eerie resemblance to things that match up with my husband's experience. My husband loves a certain animal I had never paid any mind to before meeting him. Tell me why the man, without any lead from my husband, shares that his favorite animal is the same as my husband's, and the specific breed within that species also matched the only breed my husband ever bothers showing me videos about. I got a continuous wave of goosebumps emanating from my lower back when it got to this detail. Interesting. The man also then went on to talk about what it was going to be like when you get hit by a car, and how he needed to behave and act during the accident, and how it would feel when death was there to collect. Specifically that the cold would be felt in his feet first, and it would rise up. He told him the only thing that would matter in life is that last moment of consciousness. He told him he would only hear the voices of those who had loved him the most, and that the question of whether the last moment of consciousness would be one of fear and panic or peaceful acceptance would wholly depend on how clean his conscience was at that last moment. He said usually it's the voices of your parents you hear. Then asked him how he was doing with his parents. My husband fell out with his parents and basically his entire family 3 years ago, and hasn't spoken much to them. My husband, unlike myself, has always shared with me his obsession with that last moment of death, and he always has ruminated on what that last moment will be, and he has all these fears about having a stupid, embarrassing death. This man essentially told him it wouldn't matter if he drove slow and careful and looked both ways. He said when a car rams into you from the back, it feels like the weight of an airplane has fallen on you. What in the world? He also told him there could be an alternative ending, and that if he wanted to make it to that special age of 41, which he said is when a lot changes, he would have to make sure he kept going to the gym and taking care of his body, and to keep his body strong. I've got a feeling I really would like to know where this man lives. Because what if you just met a homeless guy on crack or something? It goes on. I lost my place. The man also specifically talked about traveling through a specific US state that my husband has ties with, and which he has always talked about possibly moving to. My husband grew up in a rough neighborhood. He hung out with a lot of criminals and people who were obviously mentally unwell. My husband can detect that sort of danger right away. He says he didn't pick up on an ounce of mental illness. Well, that's interesting. In the end, the man looked him straight in the eyes and smiled, only to open his mouth and show my husband his tongue for a brief moment. Ew, that just gave me the creeps. My husband called it and said he had to leave and drove away. He called me crying, and he seemed to know he met a version of himself that came to pay him a visit. My husband has had paranormal experiences in his youth, but nothing in his adulthood, and certainly nothing since being with me. Alright, remember the homeless man on crack? I think this man. Maybe this guy's the one who's on something. She goes on to say, this really has him shaken up. This all happened while he was parked in the parking lot of a park. In the comments, someone asked, so what's up with the tongue part? And someone answered, I looked up Bible references to tongue, and there's 2 Proverbs verses. First one, Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. The other one is Proverbs 12:18. Says, there is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. They go on to say, funky number play there too, no idea if it's just a coincidence or what. Referring to Proverbs 18:21 and 12:18, and they both have a tongue reference, and they both talk about death and life and health, which this angel creature thing was talking to this man about. Alright, you guys, what do you think about this one? I think it's very sad that clearly this man and his wife aren't doing well mentally, and just some person maybe with schizophrenia and drug issues who looked normal came up to this man and talked to him, and he actually stayed and listened for an hour. I don't know, but I don't trust these people when they say something like, but this person didn't look crazy. I don't trust them. You don't have to look crazy. And I have noticed with all of these true crime stories and people around me that the first instinct of most people is just to trust strangers, which is nuts. Anyway, I'd like to believe in this stuff. I like for all of this to be real. That's why I like reading these, because sometimes some of these stories really resonates with you, and some experience that you had before. Let me know if you've had any weird experiences in your life, paranormal, extraterrestrial origins with these origins, and let me know if you enjoy listening to this, and I will try to find better stories that were submitted in these subreddits. Thank you for listening. If you're still here, do not forget